Ready.
Welcome to episode 62 of the Go Get 'em Agility podcast. My name is Margaret Hughes and I'm your host. I want to talk maybe about a little bit of a touchy subject, perhaps, or maybe an overwhelming subject. And that is the ideal relationship that top handlers have with their dogs. There's been a lot of really good online information, videos, write-ups, people teaching online classes. There's a lot of really, really good information out there. And I totally encourage everybody to go and seek it out, to read some of what the top handlers are writing about, maybe join an online class if you're having a specific problem. But I also wanted to address a little bit of the elephant in the room, I think. One thing that top handlers have the advantage of, and one thing that shows through in their writing and shows through in their offerings of online classes, what they have is time in the saddle. I can almost guarantee you that the top handlers out there that are putting on some really good stuff are not on their first agility dog. They're probably not even on their second agility dog. They are either third dog or fifth, sixth, seventh dog. And with each dog comes more education for them, comes more ability to look back at the past of what worked and what didn't work. And they learn, they're learning every single time that they bring a new dog into their house, how to teach the next dog maybe better or different. Not necessarily better, but different. One thing that instructors have is hindsight on all of their students. Every good instructor has a host of dogs and handlers to thank for giving them an education over the years that they've been training them. I am extremely grateful for every single dog handler team that has come into my life, into my classes, either privates or group instruction, that has allowed me to learn to not only help them, but also to help dogs later on or adjacent to them, dogs in other classes. One thing that gets lost in translation, I think, with good handlers, good instructors giving information is how hard it is to get there. How much struggle happened and how much learning happened for the instructors along the way. That while we grasp for ideals to make our dogs' lives easier, to give clarity to our dogs on the agility course, I think the main thing that really separates top agility handlers from younger novice A, and when I say younger, I just mean inexperienced, is the understanding of how powerful the relationship between you and your dog can be, and how much that impacts your agility adventures, how much that impacts your agility training. I've talked about relationships before. I have given a little bit of a roadmap on relationships, but relationships with your dog are not built in a day. It's not something that you can just do XYZ and have a great relationship, because the relationship between you and your dog is so multifaceted. But I think what's important to take from my podcast here today is that you're constantly building or eroding your relationship with your dog. And ideally, we want to constantly build. We want to build stronger. We want to build more resilient relationships. And when I say relationship, I'm talking about the dog's feeling a drive to want to be with you and to stay connected to you, even when their instincts want to take them elsewhere. And that's not to say that dogs will always pick their handlers that have a great relationship. They won't always pick their handlers. I would say one of the main things that separates new handlers, new agility folks from experienced handlers and those that are on their third, fourth, fifth dog is that when you're getting your third, fourth, fifth dog for agility or with agility in mind, you know that you're going to need a relationship. You know that there's going to be a communication that happens between you that's very hard and requires a lot of skill, both on the dog and the handler. Experienced handlers start cultivating that right from the very beginning, right from the moment that they acquire the dog, whether it be a puppy or a young adult. They begin to cultivate the relationship first, whereas most pet people that come into agility, they focus more on behavior and good behavior or absence of behavior. So no jumping up, no peeing on the carpet, no biting. Whereas experienced handlers know that that will eventually be trained, but they cultivate the relationship and the drive for the dog to come to you, to be near you, to seek you out in environmental stress. And they build that over time to the point where it's super, super strong and can withstand a lot of pressure. And pet people don't realize how much work goes into that and expect the same from their pet dogs, that one may not even be bred for that type of communication. That pet people generally don't think about, do I want a dog with toy drive? Experienced handlers seek out a breed of dog that they believe is going to want to work with them. Pet dog people don't. They just want something that's cute and won't destroy the couch on the weekends when they go out. I think that experienced handlers don't feel overwhelmed quite as quickly with a little bit of crazy dog behavior, whereas pet people are almost instantly overwhelmed when their dog does something that embarrasses them. Jumping up, barking, leaving them, sniffing the ground, ignoring them. An experienced dog person will recognize if a dog leaves them that there's a gap, there's a training gap there that they need to address. A pet dog person just feels embarrassed that the dog did it. So there's a perception difference, right? There's a perception of dog behavior that is, in one person's view, is just lack of training, lack of clarity, lack of understanding, lack of relationship. And in another person's understanding, it's the dog being difficult, the dog being distracted, the dog being untrained. And as Susan Garrett has said time and time again, the dog is doing the best they can with the information that's given them. And not all dogs are suited for agility, right? It doesn't mean that they can't do it. It just means that maybe their heart's not in it. Maybe they'll do it for their handler, but overall, it's not their game. It's not something that they crave on a daily basis. Whereas for some agility dogs, it is something they crave on a daily basis. You get them anywhere near an agility field and they are pushing the door to get in. Not all dogs do that. And that's okay. They don't need to. It's okay that agility is done to satisfy the handler, as long as the handler has realistic expectations for their dog and their agility career. And just an FYI, a really good dog-handler relationship can erode over time if the handler starts messing with it. If the handler stops cultivating the relationship and starts becoming more and more yucky in the dog's view. One of the main takeaways that I took from my early training in dog behavior, and this comes from counter surfing, dogs who get up on the counter to acquire a food source or a smelly napkin, dogs who take things off of counters. Dogs don't understand right from wrong. They don't understand, if I take this smelly napkin, if I take this marinating stew, that they'll get in trouble for it. So they don't understand right from wrong. What they understand is safe versus unsafe. Is the handler is the owner in the room and is going to make a stink about them jumping up? That would be unsafe. Or is the handler in the other room and they can grab it without the handler knowing? There are lots of examples of where dogs are trying to cultivate a relationship with the handler, and the handler expects behavior that the dog may not be ready for. Let's talk about a stay. Leaving your dog behind at a start line, on a contact, anywhere where you're leaving them for a distance. If the dog is feeling unsafe, then they're going to want to come closer to you, or sniff. If the handler is not safe to go to, then the dog will sniff or go find other ways to satisfy their need to get comfort. And so sometimes not staying on a contact, not staying at the start line, it's not about the dog breaking the stay. It's about the dog feeling unsafe to deal with being alone in the environment that they're in. And so building up their ability to handle the stuff around them and feel safe at the same time is where the training should be focused. It's not necessarily that we need to fix the stay. We need to fix the comfort level. And that happens through training. That happens through systematic making it a little bit harder and staying under that fearful threshold, staying under the threshold of feeling unsafe. And there's probably lots of things that I do subconsciously that I haven't even picked up on necessarily that make Eli's stays as strong as they are. First off, I've been working on his stay for a very, very long time, but there's also probably some innate stuff that I do naturally that help to cultivate that, or that I've just learned over time and that I haven't necessarily figured out that is part of what I'm doing. I give him lots of yes, no information, very like when I'm walking away from him, yeah, good stuff that tells him I like what you're doing. I talk to him. I like to watch him. I do work on me averting my gaze, because I like to also find my handler path. But I like to watch him as I walk away. Not that I haven't trained for him to handle me not looking at him, but in the early days, I watched him a heck of a lot more than I do now. And so giving him that eye contact is a way to tell him that I'm here, even though I'm getting further away, I'm here for you. And it's little things that over time, he doesn't need them as much until we get to a bigger competition or a new environment. I want that connection to let him know it works here too. Our stay works in this environment as well. I also know that I can very quickly erode my relationship with my dogs by getting nitpicky with certain behaviors at certain times. So sometimes there are things that I can tell my dog is struggling with. And if I start asking for real hard technical stuff in that moment, chances are they're going to struggle with it. And if I keep at them and keep trying to bug them, they're going to feel like I'm not part of the safety crew anymore, that I'm no longer the one to seek out for help, and they will take their feelings on the road. They will take their feelings to the ground. They will take their feelings to barking, to sniffing, to seeking out other stimulus. But that's not to say that a barbecue waft coming from the neighboring property isn't also going to catch their attention. So I think my main goal for doing this podcast is to normalize that building a relationship with your dog is difficult. It takes time. No, I don't want to say that it's difficult. I want to say that it's doable, but requires active effort. It requires the handler to acknowledge that dogs aren't robots and you can't just get the relationship and have it permanently for life, that it evolves, that it ebbs and flows, it zigs and zags. that it's not a straight line up, that it's all over the map, that you have breed traits that you have to contend with. You have new environmental pressures that you have to contend with. Some of the relationship starts at home and how you're cultivating that relationship at home, and then how it cultivates out in just everyday normal life to how it cultivates at agility class, to how it cultivates at an agility trial. And that within all of the fancy online stuff that you will see and the videos that you may watch is that top agility people seek out a certain type of dog. And a strong dog-human relationship has history. And that history offers you a buffer to yucky things. And the stronger that your relationship is, the more that your dog feels that they can depend on you to be kind to them in a stressful moment, to not force them into difficult, compromising situations, the stronger it gets in the harder, more pressurized situations. But it's eroding and it is building all the time. And I think for my novice handlers, I want you to realize and I want you to look at how you are building your relationship either daily or at least weekly, right? What are you doing today to help build the relationship with your dog? Do you know your dog's top 3 reward preferences? Can you pull out of your hat a physical game that only you and your dog can play together, that nobody else can do with your dog? Do you have moments where your dog seeks you out just as be near you in a stressful situation? Do they avoid you when things get rough? Or do they seek you out? We want them to seek you out, but it's not easy. And the other thing I think that needs to be addressed is that there are a lot of breed traits that can influence how your relationship builds. I mean, I've met some dogs that really don't seem to want to be with their handlers. They like their handlers, but there's not a deep-rooted connection that other things are more important to the dog. Let me talk about the ways that I like to build and keep and maintain and repair my relationship with my dogs. One, I talk to them. I talk to them in a voice that they respond to positively. I give them a lot of yes, no information. I tell them when I mess up. If you ever hear me say, sorry, bud, chances are I realize I made a handling error. I give my dog a lot of information verbally, not only on their training, what I like, what I don't like, what I want, wrong guesses, but I also talk to them about what I'm doing, what I'm struggling with as far as my handling goes, as far as being patient, waiting for me to set something up or get ready. I'm constantly talking to my dog in a variety of ways. So let's just use my recall. So my recall, dogs coming to me. I have probably 10 different ways to get my dog to hang out with me, to come to me from far away, to come to me in an emergency, to come to me up close, to move my dog from one part of my yard to the other, to get my dog in and out of the car, to hold still while I'm doing something, to stay still while something's done to my dog. I talk to my dog constantly and I give them a lot of different information versus just stay or come. There's a lot more dynamics involved in just the words stay and come. And I do use those 2 words, but they are very specific times for my dog. And I have a lot of other ways to hold them still and to get them to come to me without those 2 words. The other thing is that I let them know when I need a moment, when I either need them to move away from me, when I need them to understand that I made a mistake and that it's not on them, and for them to try again, even though it's my mistake. I have lots of different ways that I play with my dog, sometimes with toys, sometimes with no toys, sometimes just me and my dog, sometimes moving, sometimes still. I have lots of different ways that I reward my dog. Sometimes I just hand feed my dog their meal. I just want them to know that I'm connected. It's kind of a little candlelight dinner between us. It's me and the dog being intimate in a quiet setting, just me and the dog exchanging pets, exchanging looks, I'm giving them food. They don't give me food. But just exchanging that connection that we have together. I let my dog tell me when they want to be pet. Sometimes I invite them to come in to be pet. Sometimes I tell them I need to pet you. And I build a relationship around me needing to pet them, even when they don't want to be pet. I learn what type of petting drives them away, what type of petting brings them in. Building a relationship is for every single person. It's for every single dog. And there aren't some dogs that are better at it than others. There's just handlers that do a little bit more than others. And you can do more too. I can do more too. I know that there are more things that I can do with my dog that I'm not currently doing. And that's okay. I don't have to do everything. There are certain limits in my life that prevent me from doing every single relationship connection thing out there. But it doesn't stop me from continuing to build and cultivate a relationship on a daily basis with my dogs. So don't underestimate the power of you. Don't underestimate the power that you have on your dog, either negatively or positively. And know that every single positive exchange between you and your dog is building, and every single negative exchange between you and your dog, even you giving a gasp that a bar was down, that they got the wrong course. All of that frustration that you feel will directly translate to your dog. And it's okay to be disappointed, but you got to know how much disappointment your dog can have, how much relationship they are, how fragile your relationship is in their ability to handle you being frustrated. And once you erode that relationship with some of your frustration, you need to rebuild it back up. Some people describe it as putting money in a bank. And the more positive you put in, the more positive that the dog feels, then you can take dollars out and not have an ill effect to your bank account. But if you take hundreds of dollars at a time, then it's going to start to waste away faster and faster and faster. And once it gets down to a certain bankruptcy level, it starts to fall apart faster and faster and faster. Some people equate relationships to putting Band-Aids around, and you can build up, put more and more Band-Aids on until you have this big ball of Band-Aids, kind of like those rubber bands. You remember those big rubber band balls? That you can build up the rubber band ball with Band-Aids or rubber bands or whatever you want to use. But every time you rip a Band-Aid off or you take a rubber band away, if you're just taking away one Band-Aid, it's not a big deal. But if you start taking away 10 Band-Aids at a time, then it gets smaller and smaller ball until the dog can no longer handle it and they leave. Some dogs stress up, which frustrates some handlers. Some dogs stress down, which frustrates some handlers. Some dogs do both. Dogs are very, very complex creatures, and there's not one perfect way or one perfect recipe to keep a relationship, to build a relationship. They are so dynamic. Each one of them likes something slightly different. Each one of them needs something slightly different. And trying to figure that out is sometimes very overwhelming for handlers. It can be overwhelming for dog trainers, right? Trying to figure out the best way in a very limited amount of time, and trying to give the handler the best information that is going to have the most effect. But some problems, some issues in agility really require a deep dive, which can be very, very difficult to fix in a group class. Even in a single private lesson, there's just so much to take in, and there's so many facets of dogs' lives that instructors don't know about that can be directly affecting agility, and it keeps going because we don't know about it, and it's almost impossible to fix because the handler's doing stuff, or the relationship outside of the world of agility is constantly being hit and bombarded that directly impacts agility. One example of that is the dog is never, ever off leash except in agility. That's pretty dang tough for the dog to learn all their off leash behaviors that they need only in agility. The one and only time that they are ever off leash outside of their yard is in agility. That's a tough go for a dog. And it's a long, steep hill to climb and perfect when they only get to do it once a week for 6-7 minutes at a time. So there's a lot that goes into relationships. There's not one size fits all, but dang, keep trying. Figure out what you can do today to build your relationship. And when we build our relationships, I always want to think my connection with my dog is built through food. It's built through safety. It's built through talking. It's built through toys. It's built through the freedom to have off-leash ability that is not confined by a leash, and the ability to check in with the handler and be responded to rather than ignored. If you want your dog to watch you more, then you need to watch your dog more. If you want your dog to communicate with you more, you need to communicate more with them. But it's not easy. And I know it's not. And I know it takes time. And I know handlers are doing the best that they can do with the information they're given and the information that they know. And I also know that it's a process that over time gets better. It gets better with each dog that we bring into our lives. It gets better with each agility dog that we try and train. It gets better with every video that we watch, with every book that we read, with every seminar we attend. But there are also some physical characteristics that we have to take into account. There's some behavioral information that we have to take into account. There's some pain information that we have to take into account. And even when our relationship is absolutely stellar, different things can affect it in ways that we had no idea about. And that's okay. We just need to be okay with it. And I think it's best to acknowledge it to the best of our ability to help the dog in ways that will benefit them and not blame them for doing things that maybe are beyond their ability. Whatever you do, keep training, keep building a positive relationship with your dog, keep playing with your dog, hand feeding your dog every once in a while. Stay in connection with your dog to the best of your ability. Watch them as they watch you. Communicate with them. Give them lots of ways to tell you that they need you. Give them lots of ways to connect with you when they are looking at you. Dang well connect back with them, either verbally at the very least or with a reward that they want.
Ready.